Good evening, everybody. You are watching the Just Keep Up podcast, where we're one step ahead. I'm Kurt Johnson. This is Pete Zindros. We're excited to be back to you guys here on this Friday. We have a great show planned for you tonight. We have a lot to talk about, lots to get into. Big show, guys. Our featured story tonight, we're going to be talking all about Bronny James Jr. He had an amazing game last night for the Los Angeles Lakers. He piled up, let's see the exact stats here, 30 minutes, 17 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds. This was his breakout game that we've been looking for, and he definitely exceeded expectations against Giannis Antetokounmpo. He held his own out there, so he looked like an NBA player. So we're going to be talking all about Bronny James, and we're actually going to be discussing, we're going to get into a little debate here about Bronny and his potential in the league. Pete had an amazing show where he discussed, the Stephen A. and Bronny situation. So I'll kind of give my take a little bit on that as well, just because I missed so much time. I missed about 3 weeks, so I am excited to be back. So I will kind of give my take on that. But we're going to be talking all about Bronny. That's going to be our featured story. And then we're going to follow it up, guys, with the Los Angeles Lakers schedule for the remaining part of the year. They have 13 games left. LeBron and Rui are scheduled to be back tomorrow against Chicago. They're supposed to play. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see kind of like what our take is on the Lakers rest of the year. So it's going to be a great show, guys. Before we get into it, I'm going to remind you to like and subscribe, help us to impact and to reach as many people as possible. With in addition to that, guys, follow us on Rumble, guys, at Just Keep Up Podcast on Rumble. And then what else? Follow me, guys, YouTube and Rumble at Kurt's Philosophy. If you are interested in the world's deepest, darkest secrets, guys, we actually just dropped a documentary. So tune into that, guys. And then what else, guys? What else, guys? I think I'm happy to be back. It's been like 3 weeks, guys. I got really sick. I got really sick, not severely sick, but very, very sick, to the point where it was like going on almost 3 weeks, and I wasn't getting better, guys. I was in the same kind of predicament. And I know a couple of you guys asked, not here, but on my personal channel, you guys have been asking, am I okay and stuff. And if you guys watch the show regularly, I am okay. So thank you for that. And I'm just excited to be back, man. And then what else, man? You guys, I hope you guys like the new setup. I hope you guys like the new setup. I wasn't doing nothing while I was sick, right? I was out freaking grinding the room. So I hope you guys like it. If you don't, then man, it is what it is. Um,
Yeah, guys. But you guys could follow me on YouTube actually at Pete's YouTube Shorts. We've been on a fucking tear lately. We've been flaming the shit out of LeBus James Jr. this past week. Oh my goodness. And it's only gonna continue here tonight on this show.
okay. Yeah, guys, go check them out there. And then yeah, guys, so we're gonna jump right into it here. So I'm not gonna waste any time reading any articles. You guys know who Bronny James is. He's LeBron James' son. He plays for the Los Angeles Lakers. His rookie season, he's averaging 2.3 points per game, 0.6 rebounds per game, 0.6 assists per game on 35% shooting from the field. Um, Although he did have a breakout game yesterday. Okay, this was his first breakout game. He had 30 minutes, so this is by far the most minutes he's played in the NBA. And he sees his opportunity. He had 17 points on, he only missed 3 shots. He had 5 assists, and 3 rebounds. So he looked like an NBA player. So I'm not going to talk too much, bro. I'll give you the floor first. Uh, what's your take on the Bronny James game, and what's your take on how he's looked this season?
LeBus James stat padded. The expectations of the game were him to get out there. And yes, he was asked. He stat padded. The minute this guy got actual playing time, the team scored 89 fucking points and lost by damn near 30 points. I don't know why people are hyping this game up. It was clearly stat padded, and this was his peak. This truly proves that he's a terrible NBA player. Get back in the G League, you scrub. Like, you don't deserve this. You don't deserve to be there.
Okay. So my take on it is I think that's ridiculous. I think and we have a group chat where he kind of goes back and forth with one of my other buddies and some people more people than not agree with Pete on this, where people think that Bronny shouldn't have been to the league, especially this early. He should have stayed a couple years in college. He should have done something else, gone overseas. I don't know, but not to the NBA. That's how most people feel. I feel differently. I think that Bronny he's a specific type of player. And I want you guys to really listen to what I'm gonna say because after listening, you'll kind of know me and a lot of other people's perspectives that are in support of Bronny James. The reason why Bronny James is in the league is not because of his dad. That's the first thing that I want to squash right there. He is not in the NBA because of his father. If that were the case, if Bronny James was in the league because of his father, right, then why would Rich Paul, his agent, have to call other teams and tell them, do not draft Bronny? He needs to go to the Lakers. If you draft Bronny, Bronny will play overseas. He'll play somewhere else. He's not going to play for you. So the threat of Bronny going to other teams, going to other NBA teams because other NBA scouts thought that he could be valuable to their team. That was so much of a threat that his agent had to call the teams up and say, "Do not draft Bronny." Right? If you draft Bronny, he's going to another team, and that once again, that's not my opinion. That's a fact. That's just what happened. Okay, so now you ask yourself, well, why were teams so interested in Bronny? He averaged 4 points per game in college, whatever the case may be. Bronny, whether it's elementary school, middle school, high school, college, and even in the pros, he has never been a stat guy. He's never been a stat guy. So teams aren't judging Bronny off of his stats. That's that's pretty simple to me. So when Stephen A got on and he's saying, well, Bronny's averaging at the time he was averaging 1 point a game. He's averaging 1.0.5 rebounds, blah, blah, blah. It's like you're an idiot because he averaged virtually that in college, right? So obviously teams were not picking him because of his stats. Teams were picking Bronny because he's a player that plays hard. He's a player that feels that he can, interrupt the game with his aggressive nature and his style of play. And he's a guy that scouts felt like can contribute to winning with his toughness. And I mean, you see that that's Bronny's game ever since he was a kid. I mean, that's been his game. He can do it all. He could score if he needs to. He could rebound. He could pass. He could shoot a little bit. He doesn't do anything spectacular. He does everything pretty much okay. But what gets him over the edge is he understands the game of basketball. I think we all agree with that. He understands how to play the game. He doesn't rush his shots. He lets the game come to him. But more importantly, teams and scouts felt like he can impact the game winning wise. Okay. And how does he do that? By making winning plays, by hustling for loose balls, by giving effort, by showing tenacity. Guys, I mean, we see it with guys like Vando, guys like Goodwin, like JJ Redick. JJ Redick praised Goodwin. JJ Redick praised Goodwin, and Goodwin had 2 points and he shot 1 for 7 from the field. And he said Goodwin was the reason why we won the game. Okay, so we all know, people that watch the game on a regular basis, we know that the game isn't solely on stats. It's about what you can do to contribute to winning, and teams felt like Bronny can do that. So, with that being said, that's my long-winded way of saying the whole Stephen A thing made no sense. The whole thing, about other reporters and other analysts and other guys like that shitting on Bronny, it was not warranted because Bronny's never been judged off of his stats. Never. College, high school, middle school. He's never been judged off of his stats. He's not a stat guy. And we all know this. So he's a guy that could simply come in and bring energy and effort. And when given the opportunity, 30 minutes, given the opportunity to play, You see, he averaged 17, 5, and 3. He's given an opportunity to play a lot of run in the G League. He's averaging 20 points there. So he's not a scrub, but teams didn't draft him off of purely his talent. They drafted him off of his contributions to winning, which is hustling, effort, defense, etc.
Yeah, I don't agree. I think teams were interested in him to get LeBron on a cheap contract, but Rich Paul was telling people don't draft Bronny because Daddy wanted him to come to LA so they could play together there. LeBron didn't want to get up and leave LA to go play with Bronny, so he was telling teams don't draft Bronny. We need him on the Lakers. That is exactly why teams wanted him. It wasn't because they saw anything in that scrub.
Nah, bro, you're just factually incorrect, bro. There were teams that were interested in him, including the Boston Celtics, were interested in getting him in the second round when the Boston Celtics had no interest in getting LeBron James, but they had interest in Bronny. Rich Paul had to call teams such as the Chicago Bulls, the Boston Celtics, who else? The Golden State Warriors, and it was like one more other team. Now you could say the Warriors wanted to get LeBron, so they tried to lure him in by drafting Bronny, but there's no explanation for the Boston Celtics. I'm telling you, NBA scouts looked at Bronny's game and they said this is an 18, 19-year-old kid that we feel like we can develop into a decent, solid NBA player. I don't know why that's so hard to grasp for people.
My thing is, why don't the Boston Celtics want LeBron? They just won a championship, and you're adding a guy who's at worst still a top 10 player in the game. That's pretty much the equivalent to Golden State getting Kevin Durant. There's nobody in the NBA who's going to say we don't want LeBron James for cheap. Think about it, bro. If the investment is just drafting his son in the second round and then you get LeBron for cheap, bro, anybody's going to want to do that. Literally anybody. That's why they were interested in Bronny. It wasn't because
Bro,
of the game.
bro, what you're saying is how you feel. I'm telling you what is real. I'm telling you what was reported. I'm telling you what NBA scouts were saying. This is not my opinion. You're arguing a theory when I'm explaining to you the thought process of NBA scouts. There was zero reporting, absolutely zero. I'm telling you this with my life on the line. There was a 0% chance LeBron was going to the Boston Celtics. 0%. They were not getting LeBron. I don't even know if they even wanted LeBron, let alone maybe we can get him on a cheap contract. I don't know because you have to completely change your team hovered around LeBron James. So I don't even know if they would even want LeBron James, let alone if they can even get him, let alone if LeBron. You think LeBron wants to spend his winters in Boston? Like there was a 0% chance LeBron was going there, and Boston knew that. They were, I don't know why this people are trying to like people are sitting there trying to throw any excuse that they can rather than just simply accepting the fact that people looked at Bronny's game and said, he is a 19-year-old kid. We're not drafting him because we think he can be a starter, or we're not drafting him because they think that he can be a star. We're drafting him because we see an 18, 19-year-old kid that we can develop and can eventually be a solid role player in our system that's going to give energy, effort, and tenacity towards the game. That's it. I don't know why that's so hard for people to accept. That seems pretty standard to me. And we're bringing up his stats like these sports shows are bringing up his stats. Go look at any other second round pick. They're averaging pretty much the same exact thing. No one wanted to talk about that. Bronny only played in 20 NBA games. He played in 20 NBA games and is averaging 3 minutes a game. So when you bring up the fact he's averaging 1 point or one rebound or this amount of shooting or this blah blah blah, have you guys ever heard of a controlled experiment? Have you guys ever heard of that? This showing Bronny's stats or saying his stats or whatever you want to say is completely disingenuous because he doesn't qualify. He doesn't play enough minutes. He hasn't played enough games. He plays 3 minutes a game in garbage time. So to bring up his stats as like, well, he did this, so that's why he doesn't belong. Number one, he wasn't judged by his stats, and number two, you can't judge him by his stats because he's not playing enough to do so anyways. No one, no one said that he should be getting multiple minutes for teams. The Lakers drafted him for the future. Not for right now. LeBron was staying whether they drafted Bronny James or not. LeBron James's career is set up long term. His family's there. He's set up long term in LA. He was staying in LA no matter what. The Lakers didn't need to draft Bronny, right? But the Lakers really wanted Bronny because, again, his effort, his tenacity, and he's someone that they feel like they can develop in the system and be a solid player in a couple of years, right? And the last thing that I want to say before I turn it over to you and you can respond to all this is people say, well, Bronny just should have went to college, or he should have went overseas, or he should have went somewhere, but not the NBA. He wasn't NBA ready. I would argue that this was the best situation for Bronny because, again, he's never going to be a stat guy. It's not his game, especially at the highest level. So he could have went to college and dominated in college and put up stats and put up all these numbers. But guess what? Teams are still going to draft him off of his energy, tenacity, and effort towards the game. He's never going to be good enough to be the number one option on a championship team. He's never going to be good enough to be a number two on a championship team. He's never going to be good enough to be a number three on a championship team. Never. So the stats is never going to matter for Bronny. So whether he went to college for 5 years and put up stats and did all this, he's still not going to be good enough to be that type of player on a winning basketball team. Can we all agree with that? Okay. So then your next thing has to be, okay, if he's not good enough, then if he's never going to be good enough to be a stat guy, why is he just prolonging his career in college to put up stats? No. Go to the NBA, go to the G League, get used to playing with these guys, get used to being in the locker room, get used to being on road trips, get used to playing against NBA players that want it, get used to that. By the time he's 22, 23, 24 years old, he's really going to know his role in the NBA. I think that this was a great move for Bronny.
Well, I don't think teams are necessarily gonna draft the guy and they're just gonna go out in the open and just say, yeah, like we don't care about this guy. We just want his dad for cheap. So I think teams saying that they want Bronny for who he is just them being respectful. But that's my opinion at the end of the day. I think that's the reason why teams said that. I think it's truly because they wanted LeBron for cheap potentially, and the investment wasn't high. It was a second round pick. I mean, if you could potentially get LeBron for cheap with just a second round investment, I mean, I think anybody would do it. But as far as the stats go, yeah, I'm sorry, bro. The guy shot 36, 26 shooting splits in college, and his role is being a 3 and D guy. Like he was shooting 26% from three as a 3 and D guy in college. So that tells you that he's just not ready. He needs to sharpen his skills more in order to enter the NBA, but he had an advantage to get there because of his father. Like anybody else who put up his stat line in college, 4-2-2 on 36, 26 shooting splits, whether he's a stats guy or not, those percentages are horrible. They could transfer to potentially get a bigger role. They could stay another year or two to develop a little more, but instead he just he had the leverage because his father is LeBron James, and he managed to get to the NBA because of that. Now, don't get me wrong; he's gotten to the league, he's played in G League, he's gotten better. Okay, he is a G League level player, but he's still not quite ready for the NBA yet. I think him staying in college probably would have benefited him more. Like just not even just because of his stats, he could have just sharpened his skills more because he's not ready. Like last night, he had the best game of his career up to now, and they lost by damn near 30 points. Like he's not ready to actually contribute in an actual NBA rotation yet. He's as of right now, he's peaked out as a G League player as of right now. And I mean, if he stayed in college this year, he probably would have had a better year. He would have developed more. And this year, he probably would have had a good chance to get drafted like on a more respectable note, and people wouldn't be shitting on him saying that he got in undeserved. That's just my opinion on it.
Well, okay, so let me ask you this. Which competition is better, college or G League?
I agree the G League is.
Okay. So if we're saying that Bronny's never going to be a stat guy, which everyone I think can say yes at this point, right? Right? People that have eyeballs, they know that he's not going to be the type of player to be a number one or number two or number three. He's a glue guy. He's a role player. So what's better for a 19-year-old kid to be in college and go through the college experience against weaker players that aren't going to go to the NBA? Or is it going to be better for him to experience NBA players, guys who go in and out of the league right? At 19 years old, also traveling with an NBA team, getting to know, a team's highs and lows and going through the playoffs and all these things. Like it's much better for him to get drafted to the NBA rather than waiting and staying in college, specifically just based off the fact he's not a stat guy. Now, if your argument was that Bronny could be a stat guy, but he just hasn't had the opportunity, then I think it's an argument to be made that he should have stayed in college and maybe got a better role and a better contract on a team that needed him to do that. But I don't think he's that good, and I don't think he ever will be that good to be measured off of his stats. I think he's a Jordan Goodwin type of guy. I think he's a Vando type of guy. I think he is a Jose Alvarado type of guy, where you're not judging these guys off of their stats. You're judging them off of their effort, their tenacity towards the game, and how they can impact winning. Now you bring up, well, Bronny had his best game and they got blown out by 30. That's completely contradictory to what I just said. He was put in a position where he had to put up stats. And you see what just happened just now. They got blown out. He's not a stat guy. He's not. So he's not. I said he is a rotation guy. He's not a 30-minute per game guy, which is what he had to play. And because everybody was out, and you're saying they lost by 30 when they had to play guys who aren't going to be in the rotation, guys who are worse than Bronny. They had to play Alex Lynn 20 minutes. They had to play, your Trey Jemison minutes. They had to play all of these scrubs against Giannis Antetokounmpo. So you can't say, yeah, look what happened. He lost by 30 when he got his chance. Like, bro, I don't think he's a stat guy anyways. I think that he's a role player. So he shouldn't be in this position to begin with. But even then, the measuring stick shouldn't be he got blown out to the Milwaukee Bucks, who are one of the favorites out east to win the title. And it was him and a bunch of out of the rotation guys. Like, I think that's completely disingenuous to hold him accountable for that.
My thing is though, Bronny is a 3 and D guy. That is the type of build that fits on any NBA roster. Like no matter what, you can never have too many 3 and D guys on a roster. It's the ideal type for any team, no matter what. So if Bronny's skill set was good enough to be a 3 and D guy in the NBA right now, he would have had a spot in the actual rotation. But instead, he's in the G League instead. Like
It's
he's
not.
not ready for the NBA right now.
It's
And
not,
I mean,
bro. It's not, bro. No, nobody said that he's ready to be a 3 and D guy on a championship team. I never said that. What I said was teams looked at Bronny's tenacity, effort towards the game, and they said he's someone that we can develop in the next 3 to 4 years to be a solid role player for us in our system. That's what I said. That's the reason why people are equating Bronny, the NBA drafting Bronny, to them saying that Bronny is NBA ready right now, when we all agree, including JJ Redick, the coach of Bronny right now, that the reason why they drafted Bronny was to be in their player and development program. And he's someone that can be a solid role player for them in a couple of years. That's all that anybody's saying. He's not in the rotation. He's not. He's playing in G League. He's playing in the games that everyone sits out. What's all the criticism of Bronny for? I don't get it. Like if you look at all of his stats, they're all uh,
yeah, they're all
um
the stats are all pretty pedestrian in the NBA.
yeah, guys, but we're gonna have to end in about 10 minutes. I'm sorry, guys. We'll probably lump the videos uh together here. But we do have to end pretty soon. Something just came up. But yeah, so I mean, listen, man, he is a 55th overall pick, worthy. He's someone that in the second round, they're not going to get a lot of time. Their second round picks don't get burned, bro. Like they're in the G League, they're developing their skills, and they're at the end of the bench. And that's exactly what Bronny is. So I don't understand what all the criticism is about Bronny.
Because the thing is, bro, he had a terrible college season and he got looked at to get drafted because LeBron is his father. Like anybody else who had the season he had, like I said, they're gonna go back to college. They're gonna transfer. They're gonna do something to up their stock. But Bronny just had the advantage of getting in because of his father. That is why people are hating on Bronny. But he did get better in the G League. He did. Like he is G League level at this point, but he's still not NBA ready. But that's why people get on Bronny so much because going into the draft, like he wasn't. I mean, he wasn't even good in college. He didn't shoot well from three either, and he's supposed to be a 3-point specialist. He didn't even do that well. Like we don't even have to look at the fact he averages
He,
4 points per game. He wasn't even making his 3 pointers at a good rate, and
of
that's his game.
Of course, but like let's not forget, like, he had a tragic experience happen to him that delayed the start of his college career. And I mean, I think it's extremely disingenuous that people don't bring this up enough, where if you lose your life on the court, where guys have to come on the court and try to revive you while you're on the court because you're completely unconscious, that is a life changing experience. And for him to not only survive that but to get back on the court, you're always going to look to find your role, or you're always going to be scared, what if I go too hard, or on top of that, Bronny's not a stat guy. Like, it was just the worst possible scenario for Bronny that he could have had. And I don't think people give Bronny enough credit for having the mental toughness to get over that and average 20 points in the G League, and get out here and put up 17 points a game against the Milwaukee Bucks. Like, that's a traumatic experience. And on top of that, to not even be a stat guy to begin with, on top of that, to be you're a rookie in college, like, we can all agree that the odds were stacked against him, bro. Like, that was the worst case scenario for Bronny, bro.
I'll say this. Look, I'm happy the kid lived, I don't wish that on nobody. But if he felt like that held him back, you stay longer. That's what happens. It's the same thing as injuries, bro. A lot of guys get their stocks ruined because of injuries and they're forced to stay longer, unfortunately. Like, I mean, it sucks that it happened, but since it did happen, I mean, after that, unfortunately, what you normally do is you stay. But he had LeBron James to get him in. That's why people criticize him.
Well, again, you just answered your own question for me. The reason why he didn't stay, right? The reason why he didn't stay is because he's not a stat guy. So it doesn't benefit him staying. What's him staying going to benefit if he can do the same thing in the G League and prepare and travel in the NBA, and like, bro, what's the benefit of staying, right? People looked at Bronny, and you're going to have more players like this, and you do have players like this that don't average a lot in college. They're drafted in the second round, and they make a name from there. Like, we see this all the time, but for some reason, because it's Bronny, people feel a need to shame him. And I think this is enough. I think you guys can choose your side here, me or Pete. But I genuinely feel like everything that I said is not my opinion. It's just facts that I'm bringing to the table. And I'm letting you guys decide which one do you think. But I don't think that Bronny teams drafted Bronny or were interested in drafting Bronny because they thought that he was NBA ready at 19 years old coming off of a cardiac arrest. No one thought that. They all looked at his potential, and they looked at, his ability to hustle. They looked at his ability, his mental toughness to come back from all that. And they said, you know what? This is a guy in a couple years. He could fit in our system and be a solid role player. So let's snatch him up now and have him develop with us. And then he can be a solid role player because, again, he's not a stat guy. So it does not going to help him to average more points on another college team. It's still not going to be good enough to be a stat guy in the NBA. He's not that. He's different round. He's Jordan Goodwin. He's Vando, right? He's Jose Alvarado. He's that type of player. So, um, but yeah, guys, we'll end here. We'll be right back with a Lakers show for you guys.